So let's go ahead and everybody find their seats, please. Brother DeLuca, you can sit up here with me if you don't mind. Okay. Wonderful to have everybody back tonight, and nice crowd for a Sunday night. And I know it's because Brother DeLuca is here. So as most of you know, Missionary Michael DeLuca is here with us tonight, and he is going to update us on his ministry here in a little while, and also going to be preaching for us. Excited about that, and excited about what God's going to do in our midst. It's great that how God can work in our hearts and God can work in our lives. It's amazing how God speaks to our hearts. And let's go ahead and open up in a word of prayer and ask God to speak to our hearts specifically tonight. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we're excited about what you can do in our hearts and our lives. Thank you for the opportunity we have to serve you. Lord, you're such an amazing God. And Lord, we want to please you with our lives. And Lord, we understand that without faith, it's impossible to please you. So help us to have faith, Lord, and help us have faith tonight during the service, asking that you speak to our hearts through the preaching and teaching of your word. Also, Lord, asking you to speak to our hearts through the singing and the worship and the praise of you. God, we want you to work in our service. In the day and time that we live in, there's so much craziness going on, so many different things that are happening in this world. We need clear leadership and direction from you, and we know wisdom only comes from God. So, Lord, that's what the Bible says. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God. And that's what we're doing, God. We're asking you for help and for wisdom. Lord, help our service tonight. Lord, we want to hear from you, and we need to hear from you. Thank you for all those that are here tonight. I pray that each person you speak to their hearts in a special way. In Jesus' name, amen. So we're going to start off with our theme song. And remember, the theme this year is Consider. And the reason why we chose this theme song is because every time we begin to worship, we come to the service, to begin the service, we come here to worship the Lord. So that's why we chose Brother, and we have met to worship. Brother Jim's going to come lead us in the theme song, and also he's going to lead us in the congregational song.
Brethren, we have met to worship and adore the Lord our God. Will you pray with all your power while we try to preach the word? All is vain unless the Spirit of the Holy One come down. Brethren, pray, and holy manna will be showered all around. If you're using your hymnal, turn to 50. I am resolved. I am resolved. As we consider, then we're resolved to do what the Lord tells us to do. Let's sing verses 1 and 3 and 5. I am resolved no longer to linger, charmed by the world's delight. Things that are higher, things that are nobler, these have allured my sight. I will hasten to him, hasten so glad and free. Jesus, greatest, highest, I will come to thee. If you're at home, just sing with us. I am resolved to follow the Savior, faithful and true each day. Think what he saith, do what he willeth, he is the living way. I will hasten to him, hasten so glad and free. Jesus, greatest, highest, I will come to thee. Last verse. I am resolved, and who will go with me? Come, friends, without delay. Taught by the Bible, led by the Spirit, we'll walk the heavenly way. I will hasten to him, hasten so glad and free. Jesus, greatest, highest, I will come to thee. On Sunday night, we have instrumental specials. Miss Kathy's going to give us a song.
Okay, just a couple quick announcements. Remember, the graduation fellowship that was scheduled for tonight had been pushed up a couple weeks to July 26th. Also, remember, still having kids and teen classes every Wednesday night. So if you're a teenager or a young person, we'll have some good times during the month of July every Wednesday night. Brother Brandenburg will be teaching the teens now from the rest of the weekend, and having a special little incredible thing back there for the kids on Wednesday nights. I think they're having a good time. So let's see here. Missionary Michael DeLuca is here with us tonight, and he's going to come, and like I said, he's going to update us and also going to be doing some preaching for us. And the business meeting that was scheduled for next Sunday night has been canceled. So it's going to be moved a few weeks later, probably after the Kids Crusade is over and all those different things. So, but thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for those that are here visiting with us. We have a couple of people that are visiting with us, and thankful for that you're here. If you got a visitor card, just drop it in the offering plates as you leave. We pray that we all are a blessing to you tonight.
All right, this song is some of your favorites. This World Is Not My Home. Number 229, if you're using the hymnal, sing verses 1, 2, and 4. It feels more and more like it every day for me. This world is not my home. This world is not my home. I'm just a passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. They're all expecting me, and that's one thing I know. My Savior pardoned me, and now I onward go. I know he'll take me through, though I am weak and poor, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Last verse. Just up in glory land we'll live eternally. The saints on every hand are shouting victory. Their songs of sweetest praise drift back from heaven's shore, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore.
Ark for 100 years, man. There ain't ever been and there never will be this rain that Noah keeps preaching on, you see. But just look where he's built his boat. Dry land's not a good place to float. He's been wasting his time away waiting for a rainy day. Noah is a preacher, man. He said judgment's coming on the land. He said God told him to build an ark so that those inside would be safe from the storm. He's brainwashed his wife and kids, and now he's trying to brainwash us along with them. He's been 7 days waiting. There ain't nothing happening yet. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, whereby 8 souls were saved by water, and it repented the Lord that he had made covenant with him and said, I do set my bow in the cloud of heaven. I'll never flood the earth again because of my promise to you. And God gave a period of grace, a 120-year space. Everyone then and everyone today can be saved by the blood of Christ by faith. Get in the ark. Christ is the way before death takes you from this place. Find grace in the eyes of God. He will free you from your sin. Just as Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, whereby 8 souls were saved by water. It repented the Lord that he had made man, for the wickedness of their hearts were continual in them. So God flooded the earth according to his word, for the judgment of sin committed against him. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Will you find grace in the eyes of the Lord?
Okay, it's time for Brother Missionary Michael DeLuca to come up. He is serving in the field of Greece, and we're excited about what the Lord's been doing there, and excited to hear. I had the opportunity to talk with him a little while before church, telling me about all those. You remember the 4 children he had with him last time when he was here on deputation. Most of them have grown up, and they're here for just a very short time in the States, and I'll let him tell the rest of the story. But we're excited about what God's doing in his life and his ministry.
It's nice to be here with you folks, and when you hear of my life and my ministry, you guys have a huge part in that, because you're part of our life and our ministry and what we do in Greece. We couldn't do it without you folks being part of that and giving and praying and keeping us on the field. And my wife Joanna and our children and I thank you, and the people of Greece, some that we know and some that we haven't met yet, some that haven't met the Lord, they thank you as well, because some go, but many stayed back to pray and to give, so that those that God has called and opened doors to be able to go can go, and that was us. We've been called to Greece, and I'm going to go through. First off, I wanted to say, I just spoke to Joanna. She wanted me to tell you how much she wishes she was here, and she is enjoying time. I say Mama Bear's with the Cubs right now. All 3 of our old kids, well, up until this week, were working at Chick-fil-A. Our middle daughter is taking a different job now this week. But Sunday is the only day that they're closed, right? So it would have been, that's her only day off. If we were traveling a lot, she wouldn't get to spend as much time with them, and we've been away. COVID did a lot, changed our plans for the spring quite a bit. We were supposed to be here for graduations in May. And our oldest boy, Micah, graduated high school, and our oldest daughter, Claire, graduated from New England Baptist College with a teaching degree. She's going to be a teacher, Lord willing. She's going to start her Master of Christian Education with Veritas Baptist College, which is where I also went to school. She's going to start that in the fall. She's still looking for a position somewhere. Right now she's making salads at Chick-fil-A, praise the Lord. And we're just excited for what the Lord has for us while we're back, and also for when we get back to Greece. I'm more excited if I could get on a plane as soon as I'm done here tonight. Yesterday I would have been happy just to get on yesterday, but I'm very much looking forward to getting back. I'm sure many of you realize that the things that we see in America, and I don't want to get off track too much of that, but it's been very hard for me to come back to see what America has become. And we really need to get out and tell people about the Lord Jesus Christ. You know, I look at my mission field that the Lord called me to, and I come back here and I feel like almost America has become a bigger mission field. We Christians have been silent for far too long. And, I know how it feels to be out in the street and street preaching, to give gospel tracts and have people laugh at me and throw on the ground and say bad things to me and all. And you don't think that you get it here, and you will, but it's what we're supposed to be doing. Amen? And if I encourage you in any last little thing, it's to go out and let your voice be heard. And I'll preach a little bit about that tonight. We have new prayer cards. The kids aren't in this. Just picture, there's a long story. My wife had some health problems a little bit in Greece, and she was prematurely gray as a woman. And once she started having kids, her hair was really affected. She went gray very quickly. And so she dyed her hair, and she's now come to that point in her life that she decided to let her hair grow out gray. But her hair is a little funny right now with the colors, so she dyed it blonde, and it's kind of streaked, but her hair has come back very nicely. Her health has gotten very much under control, but that's not why she's not here. But we picked a darker haired color, and now I have a beard as well, and you may say, well, that's different too, and it is. BIMI, who we serve with, is our mission board. For many years, from the time that they were started in 1960, they had forbidden facial hair because of the association to counterculture, to the hippie movement. So we couldn't, but they just rescinded it about a month ago that we could have facial hair, which is a blessing to me, not because I've been longing for beard. It's okay. At times I wish I didn't have to shave as much, but because in Greece, in Orthodoxy, the Greek Orthodox priests all have beards. It's part of their identity. So when people ask me, what do I do for a living? Well, why are you here? What do you do? I'm a pastor. And the first thing that I watch do, they touch their chin like there's something missing. And so I'm growing the beard now and to fit in a little bit more culturally. So there's little things that we adopt culturally to fit in. So have a little bit of a PowerPoint to go through just to bring you up to speed. The first a couple of years that we were in Greece, the first 3 years we lived, and it's not so much on that PowerPoint just yet. You can go ahead and start it though if you want. Here, this is my new little thing that I've done. Ooh, look at that, right? So I'm trying to get... Cool, huh? Yeah, the Spartan helmet. I don't know if that's so much a Spartan helmet, but it's a Christian helmet because I got the cross incorporated in there. But with the first 3 years of our ministry, I'm sure you guys all follow, a lot of you have already told me you're following our prayer letters around the island of Zakynthos, working with the Koreanides. It was a profitable time of ministry for us. Pastor Taki needed the help. It gave me time to start working on the language. We had an outstanding, did you show I sent a DVD a couple years ago when we were back. Did you get that? Okay. But and you can find it on, if you grab a prayer card, all the digital stuff is on here, our website and all. You can go right to our webpage. You can find, if you scroll down on the opening page, you can find that video update and other videos and stuff. Joanna singing, which everybody always asks me about. There's some of her on there. It'll just link over to our YouTube. But anyways, so for 3 years, I worked on the language. We had private lessons. The kids were in public school the first year, and we were serving in Zakynthos Bible Baptist Church. I took over a good portion of the English side of the ministry. We were growing, doing really well there, and we were also I was heading up the Evangelism on an island of about 35,000 people. They had a goal to reach all the villages. You're talking about, for the most part, a very rural backwoods. It's like going to, I don't mean to insult anybody, but it's like backwoods country. I don't want to get in trouble I'll say it in Greek. Kokino lemo. You know what I mean? It means redneck, okay? Anyhow, but I don't mean to insult anybody. But these are village people, and we were trying to get out there and trying to reach all the villages that we could on the island. It's not a very big island, big enough. There's about 50,000 people that live there year-round. Very big, popular tourist destination. So summertime, we had a lot more opportunity to witness and all. But we had made great inroads in getting the gospel out to those places. And after 3 years, I had a problem with my paperwork. My lawyer had made a mistake, didn't file the papers right, and my visa had expired after 90 days. So technically, I was there illegally. Bad testimony, right? So we wanted to get that fixed as quickly as possible. Decided to take our first furlough early. That was 2017. And at that point, we decided that we weren't going to go back to Zakynthos. We talked with the Koreanides, and we just felt like that ministry was enough to meet the need of the island there, and we needed other churches in Greece. And we went up to Thessaloniki. Lord didn't really put it on our hearts for there. Joanna's family, her father was an Athenian. We went there, and Lord just seemed to really lay a place on our heart. Marousi, which if you have seen that video, that's where we just felt the Lord was the northern suburb of Athens. And that's where we've since settled and started the work. So when we went back in 2018, I went back. Well, Joanna came with me. We found a house, moved in. She came back to finish the school year with the boys. And right after that, my friend Georgia, if you go ahead to the slides. So that's that back there. That was new. My friend George Demakos. George has been there he's a Greek. He's been there for almost 30 years. He was born and raised for the first 7-8 years of his life in Sparta. He's a Spartan, so you can say he knows somebody who knows a real life Spartan. He's probably the most gentle person I've ever met, too. It's so funny, but just such a big personality. But he, after a year on the field, 26 years ago, packed up his family and moved back to the States. Didn't tell anybody, but he wasn't going back. He said, these people are never going to get saved. I don't want anything to do with them. I'm just leaving, not going back. His missions Bible college professor begged him to pray about it, and the Lord got a hold of his heart, and he went back. In 6-7 years of toiling and laboring, he was able to get Athens Bible Baptist Church starting to grow, and they got a building, and he's been there, and God has given them a tremendous refugee ministry. Well, right after I got back in 2018, his son-in-law and daughter who work with him were going on furlough. Just the week that they were going on furlough, he had a massive heart attack, and a widowmaker, but he survived. So they were like, well, what do we do? I said, I'm here. I'll fill in the gap. I'll work with your dad and help. So George gave me opportunity. You see me there in the refugee ministry. They have a growing, huge refugee ministry to Iranian and Persian-speaking, Farsi-speaking people, Afghanis, and also a very big ministry, feeding, giving the gospel. So you can see me preaching there. Next slide, please. Here's a baptism class. We don't just baptize them right after they're saved. They have to go through 4 classes. Many Muslims will get the paper to say that they've been baptized just to go to Germany or UK. I'm not a Muslim anymore, but they can't articulate, don't know anything about. So what we decided to do was that in order for them to truly know how to be saved. Now, it's a hard issue for them, but they could learn these things. But we truly believe that the vast majority were being saved. So they went through these classes, and there's a test. And they have to pass a test, and that's to give the gospel back to us and then articulate their salvation experience to us. And most of them get through. You see us baptizing them then there in the next slide. Some more preaching and teaching that I've done there. And we've seen many, many people come to Christ. When I can say I've seen hundreds of refugees come to the Lord. Not just by me preaching, but we've seen lots of other preachers come through with George, with me preaching through the translators. It's just amazing to see how many have been saved. Give God the glory for that. Next one, please. So then, George and Louisa, his wife, they've been there for a number of years. They had 2 different times they had other missionaries come that were working in the area that stole people from them. So they were very wary. Well, the Farsi, the speaking people, are very... I was telling your pastor this, they're very jealous people. They latch on to others, and they'll use it. Oh, well, I'm friends with the DeLucas. And they would start telling me, oh, you're starting a church, because we decided in November we were going to open up our home church. We had been called to plant church. We had rented a house that had a huge room downstairs, separate entrance, its own bathroom. It was plenty big enough. I had bought 30 chairs, spread them out. They all fit. It was great. And so these Farsis were starting to tell us we were going to come, and George and Louisa got upset, and rightfully so. They thought we were trying to, and I said, look, I was telling these Iranians, I don't speak Persian. You don't speak Greek or English. You have a church here, but it was time for us to kind of pull back from that ministry. They were getting too attached. So we went over, there's another church who we're good friends with there. So we started serving there on Sundays, Sunday mornings, and kind of getting a little bit ahead. We started the church in November. Well, after 2 months, I had one person coming. A Greek girl that I know, she's saved, she was coming, and she was just kind of giving support, But Greeks are lovely people. They'll tell you everything to your face and never follow up. They don't want to hurt your feelings. So I'm inviting people. I'm meeting all these people. Oh, I want to come. For them, church is never in somebody's home. It's a place in their community. There's churches all over. To have a church in the home is so foreign to them. They just wouldn't understand why anybody would do that. You go to church as a place. Now, we know we are the church, amen? We as Christians, we make up the church, but for them, they don't get it. Church is everything. That's their way to God. If you study Orthodoxy, it's much like Catholicism. You have to go through a priest. The sacraments and those things all have to, it's through a priest and the church that you come to know God. So it wasn't working. We decided to go on Sunday mornings. We helped out there. Next slide, please. Very big on evangelism. George and I go quite frequently downtown. That's Ammonia Square, one of the biggest gathering points in downtown Athens. And I engage a lot of people. It's hard to street preach. People don't stop and listen, but I get snippets out enough to draw some interest, usually for them to tell me how much of a heretic I am and how I'm going to burn in hell. But that's okay. It opens up a line of communication. And I've been called all kinds of vile things, but it's okay. It's what we do. Apo Pisotis Maskis is a track that I did about living behind, pulling away the mask. God sees us behind the mask. I did that last year before COVID. It's so fitting today. But we give those out. Next one. So we were praying about starting after everything came through. We were having a rough time in early 2019. Our kids were kind of miserable. At home church, homeschooling, they just a city of 4 million people, nothing seemed to be going right. And we decided we were going to rent a building and start, hey, that's what you do. We're going to give. They want a church. We're going to find a place. And we incorporated as Cristianico Kendro El Pino, which means Hope Christian Center. Next slide, please. And the building was a mess. It's basically 2 offices with 2 lofts connected together. I got it for a good rent. It's in a building. It's in a business campus. I get a lot of foot traffic. It's by the metro station. I get a lot of people walking by. But you can see, I mean, that's like the morning I got the key. You can just see it was filthy dirty. The blinds were a mess. The windows, everything needed to be painted. It was just, so there I am painting. It's my Navy training. I was good at that. So next one, please. So as things started to come together, we were able to get the blinds and furniture, and you can see the chairs and stuff coming in. Next one, please. And then in October, we had our first Bible study, and it was a lot of work to get to that point. A lot of things had to be done as far as legalities and working with my lawyer. Everything has to go through paperwork, has to go through lawyers, accountants. It's so, I give pastors here a lot of credit for what I had to go through with these people, and I don't speak the language real fluently, so I have to rely on my lawyer to do a lot. Praise the Lord, she's a believer, so she's been really great with us. So there, if you go to the next one, that's our first service. There's Joanna singing, and you can see my son John there in the front by the television there, and we had about 15 that first night, and it stayed up around 10, 12 for the first couple of weeks, but we're down usually in the 4, 5, 6 range, and then COVID hit. If you go to the last one, thank you for praying, and it's usually about what we have. Sometimes I use the main little room. Other times we just sit out and have around the chairs, around the couches, and gather that way. It was wintertime. It was a little warmer in there. So, but that man you see on the right, his name is Spiro. Spiro's from Zakynthos, and he lost half his leg to an infection. He wears a prosthetic. You'll never see a man more committed to getting out the gospel to Greeks. He will walk for hours. He wears through his prosthetic sock so fast, and he's had to have so many operations to have it fixed because he wears it out so much. I used to go out with him in Zakynthos, and we'd go up in those mountain villages, and he would ride on his motor scooter, and he'd be singing. He doesn't speak English. He would sing "How Great Thou Art" in Greek, and I would run behind him, grabbing track. He'd be handing them to me, and singing, "Oh!" with his arm going and everything. But just a great man of God. I love him. But thank you for praying for us. You have a part in this ministry that you've seen there, and I'm going to kind of launch into my message from there. Pastor, what do you want me to be done tonight? Oh, look out. I won't keep you that long. One thing I've learned at Greeks, they're very demonstrative. Spiro, when he was ready to go, he'd start going, he'd do it all the time. Like, I guess you want me to be done, Spiro. We'll be in John chapter 21 this evening, John chapter 21. But, as I mentioned, we've been in Athens for the last 2 years, and it's been a great joy where we're at. But I'm going to be honest with you, it's been a great trial for us as well. It's difficult. We took our kids older to the mission field. They gave up a lot. It's been a struggle. I'm going to be 53 years old in November. I've been working on learning a language. It's rated in the top 10 of most difficult languages to learn. It's actually number 6, I think. For me, it might as well be Mandarin, which I think is number 1. Chinese is number 1. But it's very difficult. I've been working with a tutor, one-on-one. She would come to our home and teach all of us for 3 years, and then I've been going to university and then doing other things along the way. So I'm getting a grasp on it. I'm fluent enough that I can go out and interact with people. I still have trouble with preaching. I have to write out my preaching because there's so many words in the Greek language. It's a very precise language. There's 3 different words for just to say no. If I know a person, if I know a thing, if I have an idea, and if you don't use it correctly, it doesn't make sense. So you have to be able to use things in context. So that was one big struggle for me there. But as I mentioned, we had some difficulties in 2018 and 19 with the home church, with homeschooling, rejection, housing. You guys have probably noticed in our prayer letters, we move a lot. We've been 6 houses in just 6 years in Greece. It's been heartbreaking for my wife women so much more than men like to nest, and have that permanency of residence. And we just haven't had that, and to keep moving. And Greeks, and it's not been our fault. We keep getting, they want to keep raising the rent, or they'll lie and tell us the last lady, that house that had the great big basement and everything, we loved that house. She wanted more rent. I had a 3-year lease, so I want to raise the rent. And it was 200 euros a month. I said, no, we have a lease for 3 years. I'm selling the house. You have to move out unless you want to buy it. 450,000 euros, I'm going to sell it. Okay, we'll have to move out. I start looking for a house. What does she do? She starts renting it to somebody else for 1,000 or 100 more euros than what I was paying. But I wasn't going to budge. And it was a testimony for that. But it was just difficult. And we worked hard. We've been working hard to establish ourselves in Greece. And however, sometimes, especially me, I feel ineffective, and I get frustrated. And at one point we felt, and I say felt, not believed, the Lord had been closing the door for us in Greece. There's a big difference between feeling something and believing something. I always believe God wants us to be in Greece. We felt like possibly the Lord was closing the door. We were spiritually and emotionally drained in the beginning part of 2019. When you see your kids, your boys, just miserable because they have no friends, they don't go anywhere. You live in a city of 4 million people, surrounded by people. You can't make friends. You're just rejected at every last turn by most people. It's very hard, and it's draining. But thankfully, where did we turn? We turned to the Lord, amen? And he pulled us up out of that miry clay, and he set us back on that solid rock, Psalm 40. And then my pastor and his wife came to visit in March. It was a great encouragement to us. And George and Louisa, they started pulling back alongside of us and encouraging us. And we found a new house while my pastor was there. Guess where the house is? Did you catch that? I wrote about it. It's 2 blocks up on the same street that we moved from, and it's less rent. Matter of fact, the man just lowered the rent because of COVID. I put him over a rock. He said, well, I think I'm about raising the rent. I said, brother, I found a place not far from here. We don't have it. And Joanne told me to tell him this, so I wasn't overstepping my boundaries. She said, we found a place, and we did. It was very similar. It was 150 less, so he came down on the price, 50 euros a month. So, hey, praise the Lord, it worked. So things are going in the right direction. But then we found the building, and things started to work. And as you saw, Hope Baptist Church, Hope Christian Center came into being last October. And after those several months of prep work and literature distribution, we put out over 3,000 pieces of literature last year and the rehab. But still, the response hasn't been overwhelming. And I was sharing with your pastor, some of you folks, my background, I was in sales. If you can't tell, I'm an excitable kind of guy, right? I sold plumbing, heating, air conditioning for a long time. I sold toilets, okay? So I went from telling people about a place to go, or a place they could go, to a place they could go, amen? So I wanted, I was excited. I'm very excitable. I love the Lord, and I love to share my faith with people. But I wanted, and I'm so used to having results. I was always a top producer and things like that, and I didn't care about so much that. I just wanted to do a good job, amen? And if I'm going to do something, do it heartily as unto the Lord, right? 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do it all as unto God and unto the Lord. And that's what I wanted to do. And we were still small in numbers, and things just weren't going the way I had envisioned. And then lockdown came. So I went from having my little Bible studies and everything to nothing. And we were trapped in the house, and Greece really locked down tight. We couldn't go anywhere. You had to text them that you were going out. You had to fill out papers to walk. You couldn't go more than 1.5 kilometers from your house. And it was just really crazy to go on. But you know what? We pressed on. And it was at that point we decided to do Sunday morning services. I started doing the live streams from the house. I said, you know what? The center is less than 1.5 kilometers from my house. I started going there and doing the Bible studies on Wednesday night and Sunday night and Sunday morning. And I used to preach into that iPhone and live streaming. And then Joanna started coming with me more and more, and John, and I had some people to preach to. And then finally in May they opened up and we were on, but it was just still small. And I was not feeling encouraged. But I will say God used some men in my life, at our sending church. One of the associate pastors started a ministry where he gets together groups of people, men in ministry, to have a conference call once a week. And for 2 years we've been doing this, and we call it Pastoral Chat. And it's Pastor Joyner and his son Brandon is a church planter in Chapel Hill. He's been there for 1.5 years. And another man named Pastor Jake Gersboff up in Homer, Alaska. And boy, they really encouraged me. But you know what? Brandon's 1.5 years into the ministry, and he's got 30, 40 people, and I was getting green-eyed jealous. I was, and it was starting to, and I didn't want to believe it, but I was. And, here, why am I feeling like I'm just treading water? And I'm like walking in mud and cement. And I'm watching these people make all these strides, and mine are so few and far between. And as I said, I know we're called to Greece, yet here I am questioning the direction and the outcome of what we're doing. And why was I measuring myself against what God is doing in other ministries? I believe the only way to avoid falling into this trap of numbers and constant comparison is simply to put my heart and my mind on Christ and following his commands for my life and ministry rather than looking at others. He has a plan for each of us that requires each of us, all of us, to do the same. Stop looking at what other people are doing and just worry about what God has commanded us and what he's given us to do in our lives. If you turn with me, as I said, John chapter 21, we'll just read 6-8 verses here, starting verse 15. Familiar scripture to most of us. John 21, starting verse 15, Word of God says this, So when they had dined, Jesus saith to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my lambs. He saith to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. He saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved. He said unto him the third time, because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Jesus saith unto him, Feed my sheep. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, when thou wast young, thou girdest thyself, and walkest whither thou wouldest. But when thou shalt be old, thou shalt stretch forth thy hands, and another shall gird thee, and carry thee whither thou wouldest not. This spake he, signifying by what death he should glorify God. And when he had spoken this, he saith unto him, Follow me. Then Peter, turning about, seeth the disciple whom Jesus loved following, which also leaned on his breast at supper, and said, Lord, which is he that betrayeth thee? Peter, seeing him, saith to Jesus, Lord, Peter, seeing him, saith to Jesus, Lord, and what shall this man do? Jesus saith unto him, If I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? Follow thou me. Let's pray. Father, thank you for tonight. I pray you empty me of self. Lord, I pray for these dear folks. Thank you, God, for their sacrifice to keep my family on the field and for helping us to reach Greeks and for the part they have in world missions and here in their own Jerusalem as they reach Elizabeth City for Christ. God, I pray you bless and lead them and continue to grow this ministry. Bless their pastor and the ministry here. May you be glorified tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. So this is, as I said, a familiar passage, but here we find Christ reinstating and reconfirming Peter to the ministry. He had been kind of cast away. He had not been kind of cast away despite his denials of the Lord, where Judas hung himself from the shame of the consequences of his denying the Lord and what he had done and turning him into the priest, into the high priest. Peter instead acknowledged his failure. He accepted the consequences, and he would use it to propel him in ministry. That's an important thing to remember. You know, when we fall down, I'll yell. Oh, sorry. That worked. We need to get back up. We need to allow those things, those difficulties in life to grow us. They're the pruning times in life that come in. You know, you see, I picked an olive tree for our symbol, for our logo. And I colored each of those leaves with my Apple pen. I got a free thing for signing up for renewing my contract with my Greek mobile phone. So I used it to buy an Apple pen. I'm like, well, I don't know what to use this thing for. So I colored leaves. But anyways, I use it I take notes with things. But anyways, the olive tree, men that grow olives, if you understand, you have to know how to cut those branches just right to produce the olives, the best ones for the next season. And you do that with flowers and other things, right? I don't have a green thumb at all. I just don't. But that's the way things are. Pruning is good. It promotes growth. And we need that sometimes. We need to be followed. But, you know, Peter, he realized at this point that his focus had to be on Christ, on nothing else. And he was going to serve him. And what we experienced, my family experienced in 2019, was a similar experience in many ways. The Lord renewed and reaffirmed our calling and our direction and our focus. But still, sometimes I find myself looking at the direction and successes of other men and their ministries and asking, what should I do to be more like them? And it's an easy trap to fall into, isn't it? Whether you're a kid in high school, or why can't I be like so-and-so on the football field, or in the band, or academically, or at work, when we see, why can't I be like John or Sarah or whoever, who's getting all the promotions and all the things? It's because God doesn't have it for us right now. We have to be content where he has us and work hard where we are. Still, sometimes I find myself, as I said, why can't I be more like them? And I stand before you and admit this. I am mistaken when I do that. We are mistaken when we do that. It's wrong. And I want to briefly touch on the beginning of the passage because my focus is more on the latter part. But no doubt, I love the Lord more than anything in life. And I love people. And I especially love Greeks and people in Greece. Doesn't matter if they're Greek or if they're refugees or whoever the Lord brings by. I want to see people come to Christ. And notice how Jesus calls Peter's love for him into question. And I'm sure this stung following Peter's denial. But in his reinstatement, he wanted to show he truly loved the Lord. He wanted to reaffirm his commitment to Jesus Christ. And many of us know the differences in these Greek words. If you've studied it out, and you probably may have even heard it preached when Jesus says, "Do you agapao?" I'm just kind of using the present active indicative singular there, agapao, because it'd be agapis. But anyways, or phileo, right? There's two different words for love. There's three different words for love. One being the friendship love, the other being a true, passionate, brotherly love that phileo is the more brotherly love. Agapao is a deep, deep love, that passionate love. But he uses those there to bring conviction to Peter's heart. And all this, Jesus showed him and he's showing us, it isn't about us. It's not about self. Nowhere is Peter's place among the disciples mentioned here. Jesus doesn't give him any kind of idea that where he's going to serve, how he's going to serve. Jesus doesn't say, hold on, Peter, you're going to be great. You're going to go out and preach at Pentecost, and thousands are going to be saved, and people are going to look up to you. You're going to lead the Jerusalem church. He doesn't hear any of that. Jesus instead commands Peter very simply. He gives him very simple instructions. What does he say? Feed my lambs. Pasture them. It's in verses, and I say pasture, not pastor, pasture them. Verses 15 and 17, the word there, the Greek word there for feed means to nourish, spiritually feeding them, helping them to grow in their faith, to grow up. That's what, a job of your pastor, and it's the pastorate is to do, to give the word of God so that we can grow spiritually, to be more like Christ. And then he says in verse 16, feed my sheep. And that word, it's a different word that's used there in the Greek. That word, it means to rule over, to look after. That's where we find the pastoring aspect of it. So the idea is pimenos, shepherd.
is the word there in Greek. The idea Christ was driving into Peter is that the lambs and the sheep belong to him. He didn't say, feed your sheep. If we look at those verses, we find 3 words in each time. He said, feed my sheep, feed my sheep, feed my lambs. We find feed sheep, feed lambs. What's the one, and we find those in 3 verses. What's the one common thing? Those words are different in the Greek, except for one, my, not yours. They're my sheep. Vikomu is how we say it in Greek, mine. That's what the Lord was saying. These are my sheep, and I'm trusting you. I'm commanding you to do something to minister to them. The word in Greek it's God's work. The work, in Greece is not my work. It's Christ's work. It's God's work. I'm called to serve with obedience to feed and guide those sheep that God has entrusted to me. God does the work. As few as they are right now, God is working in the ones that are coming and being fed. He's working in the hearts of the ones that are getting the tracts, and this isn't a tract, a tract or the cards that I give out. He's using them in a way that I don't know, but someday, praise God, one day we'll know whether it's here on this side or in heaven. He'll use that. His word doesn't return to him void. Amen. So it's not about me. In him, it's not about self. Ministry is about others. It's about serving Christ and serving others. We come last. You see that acrostic, joy. Jesus first, others second, yourself last. That's how we have true joy. The work, as I said, is that it's not mine. And my job as a church planner, as a pastor, is to seek to bring in the Lord's sheep. That's why we have a building. That's why we make it with chairs, and so people can come in to feed them, to nourish them spiritually, to help lead them. As I submit myself to the Lord, God will fill and use me as he sees fit to direct me to impact the ones that he brings in. A hungry sheep won't lie down. It won't. It'll keep walking around looking for somewhere to find nourishment, food. And we see that all over Greece. People are looking. You probably see it all around us, don't we? People are looking for answers, especially in today's age, where we live today, during this age of COVID and all the tensions and things that are going on. People want answers. Folks, we have the answer. There's only one answer. It's Jesus Christ. The command is simple. Feed my sheep. Tell them about me. It's an easy command to follow. These people, they're not going to lie down. They're going to keep looking. People need someone committed to obeying Christ's command where they are. Or you are here in Elizabeth City, where I am in Athens, where so-and-so is in whatever neck of the wood. If my focus is on someone else's ministry, the sheep around me, they're going to go hungry. They're going to keep looking. They're not going to find any nourishment. They're not going to find anything. And I'm going to be looking at somebody else. My focus is somebody, and I'm not obeying the command that has been given to me. When I envy or when I covet the work and blessings of others, I fail to honor God for what he has decided is right for me and my life at this time. God makes no mistakes. Last year, 2019, in February, March, January, he wasn't making a mistake. He was reaffirming my commitment to him. He was showing me, as the Greek word in the Greek word in Greek. The Greek word for patience is epomeni. It's important because if you say epomeni, it means something different. Where you put the accent, oftentimes in Greek, affects the meaning of the word. Epomeni, and it always reminds me, I have to stress that last E, because it's like, epomeni, patience, epomeni. I have to keep remembering that, patience. I have to have it. He makes no mistakes. Peter understood this well. He tells those in ministry in 1 Peter 5, verses 1 and 2, he says this, the elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of God, which is among you. Taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but by willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. And as I said, that feed the flock is the pimenos, is the shepherding, is the protecting and guiding. It's a responsibility to care for the flock. It is one that we should take on willingly. And if I'm focusing on something else, I'm willingly taking my care and my focus onto something else, and I'm shirking my responsibility. that has been put upon me by God. And it's, I don't want, when I do that, and I do that willingly, I don't want to have recognition by supporting churches. But still, I want that, I envy. And what is it? There's got to be something underneath. I think I don't want the recognition. Or among believers, and I don't do it for financial gain. All these things. We shouldn't be in ministry for that. If these are your reasons for it, then you're in the wrong profession. Ministry isn't a profession. It's not. It's a privilege. And we all have a privilege to serve Christ. As far as being a church planter, so it should be for every Christian. We should serve the Lord because he has commanded us to love and reach those around us with the gospel. As servants, our only job is to do the will of the master, and our master is Christ. And verses 18 and 19, the Lord makes clear, Peter, he's saying, it isn't going to be easy. It's going to require great effort, and it's going to exact a great cost. Take it from me, ministry will cost you something, but the reward is far greater than the cost. When I see the look on people's face when they come to know the Lord, when I saw an Afghani man who was on a boat with 25 other people with his wife and his infant child, who was one of him and only one other person, the boat was swamped in the seas. Everyone drowned except for him and one other man. He lost his wife and his infant child, tried to take his own life 3 times, was searching, didn't know what to do, couldn't figure out where to go, came to Voice of Truth in Athens, and we led him to the Lord. And I never felt somebody sob waves of relief as the grief and all that sorrow came pouring out of him as he accepted with joy the Lord Jesus Christ. Never forget it. It gives me goosebumps to think about it, to know that a life that had been so close to ending by his own hand because he didn't know where to turn to Christ. And Lord Jesus met him right where his path wasn't easy, but he kept on the path, and the Lord met him there. And though our family has paid a price, we also have seen God, as I said, do amazing things, things only he could do. I've been blessed to hear from the mouths of my own children how the lessons they learned in sacrificing on the field, God has used them to guide them today. My daughter Claire, I'll be honest with you, she told me this herself. She said, Dad, I went to Greece bitter. She never wanted to take Greek lessons. She said, I'm going to leave in 2 years, Dad. I don't need to learn Greek. And we kind of said, yeah, you're going to go off and you focus, get through school. And she said, she said, I just figured I'm going to do a year Bible college. I'm going to quit and go off and go to secular college and do what I want to do. God got her hold of her heart that first year Bible college at New England Baptist College. And she looked back and she saw how good God was to us. She just finished. She graduated New England Baptist College. She's getting ready to start at Veritas this year. She's going to get her Master of Christian Education. She's praying. She's working at Chick-fil-A, praying to find a job to be a Christian school teacher. But she said, God did that. He changed my heart. Amazing things. Verse 19 makes clear the reason for these things. It's for God's glory. And I say these things to glorify God. Only God could do that. This is accomplished in steadfast service to the Lord. When you serve God, he will, despite ourselves, he'll glorify himself. You just got to give him the raw material to work with and be willing to go. And he'll do amazing things. The Lord predicted the manner of Peter's death. He would be crucified for his life of service to his Lord. And I think of Romans 6:6. It says, knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him. And also Ephesians 4:22 through 24. It says, that you put off concerning the former conversation of the old man, the behavior which is corrupt according to deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man, which after God has created in righteousness and true holiness. Peter's death would only glorify God after he lived a life committed to glorifying him in the first place. You don't live a life dedicated to self and envying other people and wishing you had it another way, and then come to the end and say, well, let me glorify you in my death. It doesn't work that way. We spend the life glorifying God so that when we finish and we glorify God at that end, and when we hear those words, well done, thou good and faithful servant, the most important part's being, thou good and faithful servant, because you were faithful to serve me, I was able to bring glory to myself. When James Calvert went out as a missionary to the cannibals of the Fiji Islands, the ship captain tried to turn it back. He said this, he says, you will lose your life and the lives of those with you if you go among such savages. To which Calvert replied, we died before we came here. We must all be willing to die to self, to serve the Lord. you know what? My death, how I'm going to die to self is going to be different than how you die to self. And how that missionary in that other country, and that pastor in that other field, how he dies to self. And that's strictly how the Lord is going to, how he's going to work in that. But by it, Christ lives in us, isn't it? When we die to self, Christ comes alive in us. And in this we find encouragement to persevere. We lay aside ourselves for the glory of God and the privilege to serve him for all he has done for us. If he was willing to lay down his life for us, should we not be willing to do the same for him? That's where I am. That's the least I could do. Lord, I wouldn't know what to do with myself otherwise if I wasn't serving God. I don't know what I would come back to. I would be so lost. I'd be one of those crazy street preachers with a beard down here. I don't know if anybody would pay me to do it, but maybe they would. I don't know. But finally, we see the primacy of keeping to the task at hand. And Peter was worried about what others would be doing. And it isn't uncommon to be distracted by what others are doing in ministry. You know, to see somebody, oh, that church is packing them in down the road, and, you know, I should try doing it this way, and I'm going to mix it up, and I'm going to try something new. That's following men rather than following Christ. I'm not trying to write a new Bible. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Christ gave me a simple command. Go out and preach the gospel. You know, I have chosen a simple path, how we're going to work our ministry. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change for anything. Too many times I've changed in my life to appease other people, and because I thought it was a good idea to be like somebody else. I'm going to stick to the stuff, to what God says, the simple way. And I'm going to let God work and let God be God. And I love to see God at work in the lives of ministries and of others, but it taught me, it ought not be my motivation. I love the little details of Scripture we see here. And if you look in verse 20, it says, then Peter turning about seeth the disciple whom Jesus loved following. And in that little detail there, John, you see, he turned his focus away, Peter did, away from the Lord. He'd done that before. You remember when he did that? When he was walking on the water, remember? He took his focus off and he focused on the storm and he began to sink. And here again, he takes his eyes off the Lord who's right in front of him and he starts looking around. It says he turning about, he seeth somebody else. He turned his focus away. My calling is my calling. Your calling is yours. It's the same way. It's my death is my death. Your death is yours. My calling is my calling. Yours is yours. We can share in the ministry of others by prayer and by giving, and you guys have an instrumental part in the ministry we have in Greece. What we do is counted as much to your account as it is to mine. We are mutually bound through Christ in the work to get the gospel to the world. And what a great instrument it is, the local church ministry, God's perfect plan to reach the world. So we're responsible for that. Think about Matthew 25 with the parable of the talents, right? Each man had to give an account for what was entrusted. But they weren't all trusted with the same things, were they? But they had to give an account for what they did with it equally, the same account, how they used what they were given. We cannot serve God and others when our eyes are not on Christ. And the more obsessed we become with what is happening in another part of the kingdom, the less effective we'll be in ours. And I think I've said that kind of in a different way before, but you know, we all serve in an area that God has given us to serve. If I'm not effective where I am, and if I'm more worried about what's going on in somebody else's, I'm not going to be effective in mine. And that's where my account is going to have to be given. And remember in Matthew 25, when that servant who didn't use the talent that he was trusted with had to give an account, he was called a wicked servant. Depart from me and cast into utter darkness. Not where I want to end up. Ministry, serving God and others, is not about receiving the praise of men. You know, Greeks don't understand and they dislike much of what we do there in Greece. They have little praise for us, but we must follow the Lord's command regardless of the discouragement. I'm not there to win their respect. I'm not there to win their love. I'm there to win their souls for Christ. God is to do the work, but I'm the instrument. I make myself a vessel to him. Romans chapter 6, that word that's used as translated as instrument, it's the only time that word is translated as such in Greek, in the English. It's a Greek word, it's opla. It's the word for weapon. When we talk about a gun, it's an opla. Or a knife. Machete is a different word for knife. But that's how it's translated. To be a weapon in the hand of God. A trusted tool. A sword what are we told? To divide asunder. The word of God, Jesus Christ himself, the living word, he lives and moves through us to be used of him, to encourage others to focus on Christ. Have you ever considered, too, also this, that the ministry that God has given to somebody else, they may not be following what God has called them to do either? And it may look really good for what you're seeing, but it wasn't what God told them to do. It happens. And then we see that in the end, it doesn't give God glory. It may look good for now. But think of 1 Corinthians 4:5. It says this, therefore judge nothing before the time until the Lord come, who will bring to light the hidden things of darkness and will make manifest the counsels of the hearts. And then shall every man have praise of God. So the final command of Jesus in the Gospel of John is this, follow thou me. Follow thou me. That's my job. It's our job, each of us, to follow Christ. It's personal to Peter, but we should insert ourselves there to that thou, amen? As if he's speaking directly to you or to I, because he is. He's speaking right to us. What does it matter what someone else is doing? Feed my sheep. What does it matter if that church is growing faster than yours? Feed my lambs. What does it matter if so-and-so at church is winning more souls? What does it matter if so-and-so at church is bringing in, their Sunday school class is growing more? Feed my sheep. Doesn't matter if things aren't happening as fast as you like. Feed his sheep. So I close with this. Let's follow the Lord. Let's obey his commands. And more than that, let's feed sheep. They're hungry. The sheep in Greece are hungry. I'm going to go feed them. I'm going to get back there and feed them. The sheep in Elizabethtown, or Elizabeth City, sorry. Elizabethtown is in Pennsylvania. I saw this sign not too long ago. That's what made me think of it. They need to be fed. You can feed them here. And you know what? I'm glad to see you feeding them. But I want to be like you guys. I'm going to take some of that with me, that passion, but I'm not going to let it be how I'm not going to, I wish I was just like that. Because I can't be. I'm just going to follow the commands of the Lord. Let's pray. Father, I do thank you for this time, and I thank you for this dear church and for their love for you. And God, now as we have this time of invitation, Lord, I thank you how you worked in my heart in an invitation, a simple invitation years ago. You called me to preach at a prison service when I just went to see what was going to happen, and you called me, you said, will you go where I send you? Will you do what I call you to do? And I said, I will, Lord. And you called me to service. I didn't know what it would entail, but I went. I followed that command. And Lord, at times I've taken my eyes off you. And I pray there be anyone here today that's taken their eyes off and is looking at other things, whether it's other world or other ministries, and not following your commands to serve and to feed the sheep around us. Lord, I pray that you'll get in their hearts tonight and that you'll change their direction and help them to put their focus back on you and serve you the way that you've called us to. Lord, you're our leader, you're master. Help us to be the servants, that instrument, that weapon, that trusted sword in your hand that we can affect the world for righteousness' sake to see others come to Christ. And I pray if there be one here tonight that doesn't know Jesus Christ as Savior, if you've never been saved, if you don't know tonight, if you would die, if you would go to heaven, if you were to stand before God and he would ask you, why should I let you into my heaven? And you don't have an answer, and you're maybe trusting in good works, I pray tonight that you would realize that your good works and anything that you've done in an effort to try to gain heaven are as filthy rags, the Bible says. It will never gain you any recognition with God, but only by Jesus Christ and his righteousness are we able to come to Christ through the cross. He made peace with the Lord God on his cross, died for the sins of the world, and he extends that righteousness, that salvation, full and free to you. All you have to do is accept and believe by faith. Lord, I pray you do the work. If there be anybody here that doesn't know Christ and wants to get it settled, see Pastor tonight, see me. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.